And welcome to week 2 of the Mojobreak Blitz. Cody with you, Doug and Dan alongside me. Week 1 is in the books, and I think, guys, just to quickly go over that before we delve into what to expect in the next week of play, a level of play that I thought was going to look pretty shoddy at best, pretty shaky with no preseason, but football is back, and it looked like football. Wasn't as ugly as I was expecting. What do you guys think? What was your guys' takeaway from week 1 of the NFL?
It was great to have it back, and, it made me kind of forget about what's going on in the world. I think with football, the fans are, not really shown much except for like maybe aerial views, and I think they did a great job of not showing the stands in most stadiums. So it was like, almost like life was somewhat back to normal. I know in reality it's not yet, but being able to sit down Sunday and watch games from, 10 a.m. Pacific all the way to 8 p.m. Pacific felt like life was kind of normal.
Yeah, I agree with that. The thing is I actually noticed how much I don't pay attention to the fans in the stands whatsoever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't really affect the way I'm viewing it at home, watching the games, and I couldn't tell you the difference. Now, the players, I think it's a huge difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt that not only it's harder to make calls at the line, audibles, stuff like that, but even for that extra drive on each play is like having the crowd behind you. I think for the players it's going to take some getting used to, but from a spectator standpoint, sitting there watching on TV, it did not matter at all.
No.
Well, and one thing I think that some of the analysts have been pointing out, and one thing that I noticed watching the games was, when you're getting like a third down situation and the home team is on defense and they need to stop, usually that's when the fans really kind of pump up, and I think you've seen less sacks this week because of that, because I think you get that like kind of like crowd aggression and like stop them on third down, and I think that was like probably the biggest not having fans issue is trying to pump up that defense.
Yeah, home field advantage doesn't feel like it's going to be as much of an advantage this year. I think we saw like a few pretty big comebacks from road teams over the weekend. I think that's going to kind of be the norm this season.
Yeah, I think overall the quality of football was surprising.
Yeah.
I expected to see some really, really sloppy play, a lot of holding, a lot of offsides, a lot of false starts, like a lot of that, which no more than usual.
Right.
I don't know if the referees kind of put the whistle in their pocket a little bit and were a little reluctant to make calls, but overall, it's good, solid. I mean, it didn't feel like a preseason game.
No.
Like all the games that I was watching, like they did not feel like they're preseason games.
Not at all.
No, they totally didn't. It felt like we were back to normal. Yeah, the most normal start to a season that we've had so far since all of this started, all the pandemic stuff started back in March. So, a return to at least some form of normalcy was nice to see here in the sports world. And there are a few guys that I think we in the hobby are keeping an eye on after week 1. Each week we'll go over some of the most notable names, some of the breakout performances from the previous week. And I feel like there's no place better to start than what happened opening night in Kansas City. The story was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If it's a name you're not as familiar with, you definitely are now. The guy went off a record-breaking game for the Chiefs in their Week 1 win over the Houston Texans. This guy's value is just going through the roof, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say probably, if you've got him, probably a good time to sell. I'm not sure that value is going to go much higher. What do you think, Doug?
I absolutely agree. I think you got to sell. I mean, you're looking at Mosaic base cards. Product just came out, going for $31 for just a rookie base card. Another recent Obsidian card sold for $100, number to 99. And keep in mind, this is a running back. So I think if you look over the history of our hobby, you look at your Saquons, you look at your Christian McCaffreys that are running the league, that are running people's fantasy drafts, they never were at this amount. This guy's played one game. He's in an offense which has a ton of weapons on a week-to-week basis. I don't think he continues to get 100 yards. And like I said, this hobby is based upon the quarterback. The quarterback gets all the glamour, gets all the glitz, and when it's all said and done, the quarterback is the investment you want to make. So I think right now it's a definite sell. What do you think, Dan?
I think you got to sell. I think with the Chiefs, I think the game plan for the opposing defense is going in every week. They're either going to choose, we're going to try to stop Mahomes, or we're going to try to stop the running game. I think week 1, they didn't really know what to expect from the rookie running back. Going into week 2, I can guarantee you, whoever they're playing, I think they are playing the Chargers. The Chargers are going to be more active in trying to stop. They're probably not going to let the rookie running back beat them. Now, that may open up the passing game for Kelsey and Hill and all of their weapons. So you just gotta pick your poison with the Chiefs.
Well, and the Chargers are big up front. So, I mean, they just signed Joey Bosa to the biggest defensive deal of all time so far. So, those guys are meant to clog that hole when it comes to the run. So, I think you were right when you hit on the fact that the Texans probably planned to take away Kelsey, take away Hill, and they didn't think about Edwards-Helaire.
Well, I mean,
now he's on the radar.
If I'm a D coordinator going into that game, I know what all those guys are capable of doing.
Right.
I'm going to basically, if the rookie running back is going to play the first game and they're going to beat me with that, then I'll take my chances with it.
It's the same theory in basketball, leaving Andre Iguodala open at 3. We'd rather take the chance of him hitting at 3 and double cover Steph, Clay, when Durant was there and Iguodala was left in the corner, and he was shooting 20-30%. So teams would rather take that average. And I think you're seeing that with the Chiefs.
I have definitely some concerns with Edwards-Helaire. With if you watched late in the game, he got stopped at the goal line multiple times. They were trying to power run it in from like 1 yard out, and he couldn't get in. That's a concern. That tells me that if the opposing team knows it's coming, he's not a big-bodied back, definitely around the goal line to get in.
And one thing to keep up with this hobby, one thing to keep in mind is the extreme amount of ADD, the extreme amount of, I'm moving on to the next guy. We've seen it with Bol Bol. Bol Bol was a perfect example. I know we're talking about a different sport, but basically had an amazing scrimmage game, and then people fell over themselves to buy his cards, and then the next week they were right back down to where they started. So that's what people are doing right now. Thursday was heavily watched. People were yearning for football, and they're taking that small sample size like it's career, and they're paying career numbers for this guy. And I just can't see it sustaining for this running back.
Is that part of the bump, too, is that you are getting probably a lot of people who are collecting basketball, watching basketball now.
100%.
Collecting football, watching football, and going, hey, look at this guy on the Chiefs. No one's talking about this guy, and buying that up, and that price is spiking because of it.
Well, and one thing with basketball is the whole season everybody was chasing Ja and Zion.
Right.
Those guys are currently not playing. They're not one of the teams that are left. So they're kind of, in a sense, frozen in time where you're not getting people coming back in and investing in them, where now it's those guys, they're taking that Ja and that Zion money, and they're looking for the next guy to spend on, and a lot of people are gravitating right now at this moment to Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, and it's crazy because football is not like basketball when it comes to the hobby. It's 1 week. It's one. I mean, honestly, Edwards-Helaire has a bad week this week against the Chargers. If he has like 12 carries for 20 yards, the prices are going to plummet.
Yeah, it's so volatile. I mean, even that other auto, one of the autos here, which is from Chronicles, it was an optic black auto numbered to 7. I mean, $1,400 for a LSU Edwards-Helaire sticker auto. So, I mean, you can get 3 Saquons, maybe 4 McCaffreys for that price. Guys that are proven. This guy hasn't proved anything. He's played 1 week.
And guys who are probably more highly touted in his draft class that are probably, I would imagine, maybe a lesser price point than Edwards-Helaire at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you can flip to receivers and look at Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. I mean, those guys are selling for less than Hilaire. If you looked at like our last show we had on the Hype where we were talking about football as positions in fantasy, we pointed out that Michael Thomas was selling pretty well. He was actually outselling the running backs, meaning Kamara, all those guys. So if you go with that theory, then it seems like, hey, maybe you should be buying Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and maybe Brandon Ayuk. That might be a better investment than buying Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think you've heard some big name running backs the last few years in Kansas City, and the fact is those guys have not lasted as long as, that team is Patrick Mahomes. The offense runs through Patrick Mahomes. So I think the best bet maybe this week is maybe less Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City, also less of that face shield that got very, very moist and wet from Andy Reid. I think we're also tossing that as well. You're going to see less of that in Kansas City.
Well, one more point about Kansas City that I just thought of is they've had a great lineage of running backs in the last 15 years.
They have.
You've had Priest Holmes, then you had Larry Johnson, and then you had the Jamal Charles. Does anybody collect those guys?
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. What our guys collecting, though, of course, is quarterbacks. That is the number one position we're collecting here in football, and maybe the guy just below Patrick Mahomes that would be at the top of the list for collectors for most wanted cards, Kyler Murray, who had himself a game against the 49ers. Really a huge statement, one of the biggest statement wins of the weekend. The Cardinals go into Santa Clara, and they defeat the defending NFC champions late in that game. Just a terrific performance by him, and a guy who's already got a ton of hype around him. This is an Arizona Cardinals team that I thought was going to go places this year, and I think a lot of people had them as sort of a sexy pick to get out of the NFC West into the playoffs. Maybe not win the division outright, but certainly with an extra playoff spot. I think a very, very interesting pick to try to make it out of there, and I think Kyler Murray with DeAndre Hopkins now, you see the possibilities of what this team can bring. Just a huge statement they made this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that was probably one of the biggest surprises this week is the Cardinals beating the 49ers. Being a Rams fan, watching the Cardinals, NFC West, playing them twice, like you've seen that they are definitely a team that's on the rise. Yeah. Their defense really didn't play that great against the Niners. I think the Niners kind of beat themselves, at least from that aspect of the game. And I just got done saying that, a lot of the teams look like they were in regular season form. The 49ers did not. No. The 49ers look like this was their first preseason game. They just were not clicking. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't look good. He's better than what he was showing on Sunday. They just were not the Niners that we saw last year that would just essentially dominate on both sides of the ball. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and Kyler is just one of those players that you can basically lock down D-Hop, you can lock down their tight ends, and then he's just going to find a way to run around the defensive line and get a third, I guess we saw with that 30-yard touchdown. He's just electric. I mean, I compare him to a little bit like Russell Wilson, but I believe his arm strength is stronger, and he's a little bit faster than Wilson. And I mean, this guy is going to be one of the greats to come, in my opinion. I mean, if the Cardinals can maybe invest in some more defense, maybe add, I know Kenyon Drake had a pretty good game, but maybe get like a franchise running back and add a couple defensive pieces, they could be the best team in the league with the combo of Murray and D-Hop out there, who had 14 catches in his first game with Kyler. It's insane.
I like the comparison to Russell Wilson. I think that's pretty dead on. I would take, if you were to actually say, let's say theoretically they are both the same age, I would go with Kyler Murray over Russell Wilson. I think he's electric. And when, not taking anything away from Russell Wilson, but when Kyler Murray gets out of the pocket, there's always that instance in your mind that you're like, is he going to take it 50 yards?
Right.
Is there anybody on the field that can catch him?
Yeah.
And then his arm strength, and especially when he's running. Again, Russell Wilson is amazing at that same attribute, but man, there's something about Kyler, and it's crazy how good he has looked that fast.
Yep.
You got to remember, this is literally his first game of his second year.
Well, I mean, it's phenomenal to think about. A lot of people that have just joined this hobby may have not realized that this guy was a top prospect in baseball and football. So, I mean, that's never been done. I mean, we've had Deion, we've had Bo Jackson, but none that, I mean, he was, 5th or 6th overall to the A's? I mean,
Yeah, I think he was the top 10 pick for the A's.
Right,
yeah,
and then
couple
a
years
first
back.
overall for football
Right.
with the Cardinals. I mean, so,
Doesn't have to.
you look at baseball's first round usually is can't-miss guys. So this guy is that talented of an athlete. And, that speaks a lot to his mental ability, too, because baseball is such a mental sport to be good at baseball. That probably translates and helped him out to his decision-making when it comes to being a captain on the field for football. And he has respect to that team, like, right out the gate. I mean, Kingsbury couldn't believe that he had Rosen and then gives up on Rosen and takes that first overall pick with Kyler. Looks like a genius move at this point.
Yeah, it does. It looks like a very bold move, and I think one that's going to pay off. And, yeah, you guys were saying Russell Wilson. I heard on the broadcast they were throwing around Steve Young comparisons to Kyler Murray. I mean, the sky is the limit for this guy, and the card values right now, as you're seeing on the video, are showing that people are buying the hype right now in Kyler Murray. What is that, his second his 2019 Prism Silver going 1,800, and then just the prices right now are reflecting that people are excited about this guy. Where do you guys think – it's only been a week, but, again, a win against the defending NFC champs, that's a big statement. Where do you think Kyler Murray ends up ranking in the QB hierarchy by year's end? Are we putting him in the top tier with guys like Mahomes and Russell Wilson by the end of the year, or is he just a shade below?
I think he's in the top 5. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he wins Offensive Player of the Year this year.
Well, it's hard to say because you almost have that group of the older generation guys. Like you got Breeze, Brady, Roethlisberger, Rodgers. You can lump them in. And then you have, obviously, Lamar Jackson's top 5, right? You got Mahomes top 5. Top 5, maybe top 6, top 7
I put him in the top, easy top 5. He may actually be number 5 in the top 5.
Yeah.
So you got what? Mahomes, Wilson, Lamar.
Yeah.
In no specific order. Yeah.
Are you taking like Breeze and Brady out of the top 10 or top 5?
I'm taking both those guys out of the top 5. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you're seeing the changing of the guard.
Yeah.
You're seeing the new quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks are coming to the league. They're so dynamic and so explosive, and the times are changing.
Is it kind of like
young man's league?
Is it kind of like the Steph Curry movement in basketball, where it's just everybody?
Do I think you have to be a mobile quarterback to succeed in today's NFL? I don't think you have to be. It definitely helps. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Burrow obviously has got some moves. He can scramble.
Yep.
You saw Josh Allen. He can scramble a little bit. Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes. I'm trying to think of. I mean, Carson Wentz, top pick, not very mobile. Jared Goff, high pick, not very mobile.
Yeah.
Serviceable. I think both those guys. It pains me to say it. I think both those guys are your typical system quarterbacks. I think Jared Goff needs to be in a system that is going to be built for him to succeed. I think the same thing with Carson Wentz. He needs to be in a system where it's built for him to succeed.
Well, and I think this is kind of the answer to the defensive line getting smaller and faster. I mean, you look at Bosa, you look at Chase Young, which ironically are from the same school. I mean, Ohio State must just know how to really coach these guys up. But these guys, I mean, if you look at like the guys in the 80s that were chasing Joe Montana and Dan Marino, it was mainly the line was just big 300-pound, 6'6" guys that were
beefy,
fighting against big 6', 300-pound guys. Now you have your Von Millers, you have your Bosas, like I mentioned, you're young, and you almost have to have a mobile quarterback because these guys are coming. These guys are faster than some receivers, and they're coming at you. And if you can't get out of the way, you're gonna see what happened with Wentz. I mean, Wentz was a perfect example of what happens when you don't have a really good mobile quarterback and you have a fast defensive line coming at you.
I don't know, man. Like I think the edge rushers have always been pretty athletic. If you look at guys like Charles Haley and Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, I mean, these guys.
That's what I'm saying. Those guys weren't that athletic, though.
No, they were.
They were more big and lanky.
They were athletic. If you put those guys in today's NFL, I think they are all three the best at their position.
I mean, I guess I
think-
kind of picture like Gilbert Brown. you
Okay,
know?
well, that
You know what I
defensive
mean? And
tackle, but-
he was, and he wasn't an edge, but I'm just talking about the line in general. And then you also have like your Von Miller, which Von Miller in the '80s is too small. He wouldn't have been a line. He never would have made a team. You know, you've got those kind of guys. You've got Khalil Mack, who's not necessarily very big either. It's based on speed.
Man,
And
I think you put the new guard of the edge rushers in the old game. I think they still perform at a high level.
Yeah,
I think vice versa. I think you put talent's talent. So
Yeah.
I think you put
Exactly.
the Reggie White in today's game, and he also dominates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think I almost feel like these guys are getting more lean, more cut, more fast. I mean, it seems like the rush is just coming at
But
these guys so much faster
The
these
linemen,
days.
the offensive linemen are getting they're the same way.
Yeah.
You can't be a 380-pound offensive lineman anymore.
Right.
You have to be able to, have the agility to like move with these guys. You can't just be a person there just
Yeah.
standing
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
taking
you
up
have to-
space.
yeah.
You got to be able to run.
Exactly.
I think you're both onto something there. I think that talent is talent, like you said, Dan. Like if you're good in one area, you're good in another area. Obviously, you have to adjust. We saw on Sunday, the game I think I watched most closely. It was on locally. Was that 49er Cardinal game? There were a few calls near the end of the game, especially late hits against Kyler Murray. That look, I can't argue it too much. It is what it is. This is the new NFL. But also in the back of my mind, I'm going, boy, is that called 15 years ago? If that's is that
Yeah.
something that gets called? But it's a quicker game. It's a more athletic game. Guys are and the look of the players is adjusting to that. Guys are not those big beefy dudes on the line like they were back in the day. These are now guys who are maybe having to take less hits, built to be a little faster, a little more agile. So it's changing right before our very eyes.
and
right now.
that's a good point. I think it almost plays to Kyler Murray's skill set
Yeah.
because the guy is so fast. I mean, you've seen that one play. I believe it was what's the guy's name on our line? Hyde Jr. or something like that. He was, Kyler took off. He was about 7 yards into his run, and this guy dove. And then in the meantime, Kyler decided to slide, and he went over him and barely drug his legs across Kyler's legs, and they called a late hit on it. It's like, how with a guy that fast, how are you able to stop yourself in the middle of a tackle? I mean, because he could decide to keep going. I mean, so that's a tough decision to do.
You need. I mean, this is the way the NFL is now. They know how they make their money. They can't have their star quarterbacks getting hurt.
No,
so
absolutely.
you need to essentially bubble wrap them up and just make sure they don't get hurt, because the drop off from Kyler Murray starting with the Cardinals and whoever is his backup is a big drop off.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that is just, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing with every quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo slides. The same thing happens. He gets the flag as well.
Right.
Yeah. No,
So
I agree.
It's not a double standard. It's just.
But when you got a guy that can almost run a 4.4
Right.
and he's running, and you have to
Then
you have to
then
decide
if you're a
gonna
quarterback,
tackle him.
if you're a quarterback, get faster.
Yeah, and
Even
when you got
the
this-
playing field by getting faster.
And also Kyler Murray, the sliding skills of a baseball player on top of it all. So
He does. He is actually the best slider I've ever seen on a football
Yeah,
field.
exactly.
It's a pop-up slide. It's a work of art.
It is amazing. And one thing to mention, back to the card market of things, pay attention to these parallels as we show you the Prism and the Select. These have jumped up tremendously, and the whole football market has changed to go to the rookie card, the non-autographed rookie parallel. But keep in mind, I wouldn't get too heavily invested in this, because the guys that have been collecting football for the last 10 years go for contenders. They go for national treasures. I think it's the new wave of guys that are coming in, and they're really ramping these parallels up. So just don't get too heavily invested in something that's not numbered, because we don't know how much is produced. We don't know how many are out there. And when supply outrules demand, that investment could drop very quickly. But it's amazing to me that Select, I know it's the field level, it's the harder one to get, is at that price. And then a Prism Silver, Prism Silver is a little bit more rare. And then even the contenders here, I think we got 3,800. A PSA 10 contenders autos jumped up to 3,800. So people are on the Kyler train. But I would prefer the auto. I know the contenders are getting up there, but there may be some like Obsidian stuff that you can kind of get into.
I mean, I look Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix.
I mean, there's a lot of releases like throughout the year. Impeccable. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, Impeccable is even a premium. You could find Illusions, like stuff like that. You can get stuff relatively inexpensive.
I think at one point I was looking, they may be up now, but there was Impeccable autos of him, numbered to 75. I think we're going for like $500 or $600. So you could technically get 3 of those as opposed to 1 silver prism, where there's only 75 of those made, and maybe you have 3 of them now. So it's something to consider as a collector, that I think when things go back to normal, and there's just not all this new influence and all these retail flippers and all these Instagram wannabe influencers, they're going to go away. They're going to go back to their Jordan shoes or whatever. And I think the people that are going to stay are going to want the autograph.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Long-term investment, probably the more sound investment. Go with the auto. If you're looking for the short-term pop, maybe you try your luck with one of these prisms or one of these.
And that's for football. I mean, exactly. It's a different story for the other sports, but for football, it's amazing to me doing this 10 years, and Dan can probably agree, that these parallel cards are going for what they're going for.
Yeah. Wild. So.
Cray.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
let's focus on some more QBs before we give our week 2 picks. A few guys that stood out, some veteran guys, some younger guys. First off, Aaron Rodgers. I'm not dead yet, even though this whole offseason it seemed like we were starting to write the end of his career off, that, hey, Love is coming in. The Packers draft a QB in the first round. This sounds familiar to the whole situation he entered when he was the backup to Brett Favre, but looked really good in his first outing of the season. Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills. That Bills team, all the hype is again around the new look Patriots, but the Bills just kind of quietly doing their business, and Allen just quietly getting better and better. But then really the big guy to watch, and especially for collectors, Joe Burrow in his first game didn't get the win, a low-scoring affair between the Chargers and the Bengals, but looked pretty solid, I would say, for a first outing as a QB. Which guys stood out to you? I'll start with you, Dan. Which QBs stood out to you this weekend from that pack?
We talked about it last week. Josh Allen looked absolutely amazing. I think we were talking about his cards last week. I think we talked about it multiple times on a podcast about Josh Allen. I think he is undervalued. I don't know why he's undervalued. He may not be undervalued after
Bills Mafia buy
this
some
week's
cards.
performance, but he is one of those guys that I think is right on the cusp of being a top-tier quarterback in the league.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree there. Burrow is interesting to me, and we're gonna see more of him on Thursday here. But I just think the Bengals are a little ways away from having the right pieces for him. I know AJ Green's back, but I don't know. AJ Green's 2011 draft picks, got a lot of miles on those legs, and went through a big injury last year. They drafted some guys. They got T. Higgins, Joe Mixon's decent, but I don't know. I feel like the Bengals, this is like the first year of the rebuilding process. They need to have another successful draft and maybe a good offseason to get the pieces for Joe Burrow. But they kind of gave him a little bit of a nibble this week. They didn't really have him do much. The Chargers defense is pretty good, but he did have that 23-yard rushing touchdown. So we were just talking about running quarterbacks. I think he's definitely serviceable. And we'll keep an eye on Joe Burrow, the greatest collegiate quarterback of all time.
Yeah, well, Burrow, it's a guy that I think all season, much like Murray last season, is going to be on the minds of collectors all year long. Got that Thursday night game against the Cleveland Browns. With the way the Browns looked in week 1, maybe a chance for him to put up some big numbers and get his first NFL win. But yeah, it still feels like a bit of a ways to go, unlike with Kyler Murray, where it almost felt like he could make this big leap in about a year, the way the Cardinals were building. Don't sense that same feeling in Cincinnati. Might take a couple more years for him.
For some reason, I just like Cliff Kingsbury. I feel like this guy's got it figured out.
He's cut from the same cloth as like Shanahan and McVay,
and maybe that's why.
Yeah, we've seen it work with those teams, and it feels very, very similar what's going on there in Arizona. And I kind of liked Kyler Murray coming out of college more than I like Joe Burrow. Not that I don't think Burrow's going to be a bad player. I just thought Murray is that good, really, is what it comes down to.
Absolutely. So I wanted to go over a recent sale and see what you think about it, Dan. So a recent Joe Burrow Mosaic just came out, 2020 silver, and there's 5 silvers a box typically. Just sold raw, not graded yet, for $504. At that price, do you think that's a buy or a sell?
If you really truly believe in Joe Burrow and you think he's going to be one of the best to ever do it, then you probably buy. Me personally, I need to see more. If I had a Joe Burrow, I'd probably sell it raw for $500. I need to see more than just one game. I don't even know if I can judge him based on this full season.
Right.
I might need to see more after this season.
Right.
I'm
selling. I believe in Joe Burrow. I don't believe in Mosaic yet, is my
I
problem.
thought you were going to say you don't believe in the Bengals.
Well, that too, but
Yeah.
No, I think Joe Burrow, given the right situation, given the right players on his team, I think he is going to be a top 10, maybe even a top 5. But the lineage of Mosaic, it's the first year we had it in basketball. It's the first year we had it in football. And these numbers are already higher than Prism, and Prism's still coming out, and Optic. So usually Prism is king. I don't know if these flippers have just decided that Mosaic is king. I don't know, and that's what's scary to me. Is it seems like it's a a newfangled company, and you're going to invest in a stock, and it's like who knows if their product's good or not. And that's how I feel. Where a Prism card, I'd say if a Prism card is probably going to sell for more than that, but I would feel much more confident knowing that Prism is the brand to invest in.
And I agree with that. If let's actually just say hypothetically that Prism came out already. Let's say Prism was released instead of Mosaic, and we have Prism rookies and silvers and all that stuff. And let's say in February, Mosaic comes out. I can guarantee you those Mosaic cards are not going to go for $500.
Exactly. They planned it right. They literally planned it to come out the day after the Chiefs-Texans game.
Yep.
So it was the perfect storm for them. You had the people moving away from the NBA, and then you have this powder keg of people that moved on into football, and it's driving the price of Mosaic up to an unreal, unpredictable amount of money. And you're seeing these Joe Burrow cards selling for $500-$600.
When it comes to parallels and base cards, you look at Mosaic, and it's going to have to climb past Optic.
Yep.
It's going to have to climb past Prism. It's not going to do that. Unless Prism goes away or Optic goes away, everybody loves those paralleled shiny cards.
Who knows anymore, though?
But
who knows
anymore? I do. I just broke it down.
Dinosaur Dan and Dinosaur Doug.
I know. I just broke it down. And with Mosaic, there ain't nothing wrong with bronze. I mean, there ain't nothing. You're still on the podium. Yeah. You're still on the podium.
If the supply and demand keeps going the way that it is, it should be fruitful amongst all of these brands this year.
Yeah.
But everybody loves the new shiny thing. If you're trying to sell your PSA 10 Mosaic the week of Prism, probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I would move with the prices. Not just Burrow. Every rookie they're all selling for a lot. Tua's selling for a lot.
I may consider, depending on how long it's going to take for PSA 10. Because if Raw is selling for $500, a PSA 10 probably is going to go for $1,000. So if you could get your, if you think it's going to grade well,
you're a dinosaur. You've been doing this a long time. The longevity of that card. Is Prism going anywhere?
No.
Is Optic going anywhere?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, is Mosaic gonna hurdle over those products? Is it
right now? Yes.
Is it? But is it? But
For the moment.
you know it's not.
It's a tall task.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of recency bias at play here, I think, is what you guys are alluding to. And, especially, not just with the cards, with the players. And, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out as the season goes on. Well, let's make our picks for week 2. Let's go on the field. And, Dan, you were the only person in our group here that was
one thing
victorious.
One thing I know is picking the winners. So
That's right.
I'm going to do it again. I actually I may go undefeated this year.
Oh,
so I'm just going to tell you guys
I'll
that.
take the odds
So
on that.
it looks like you guys are by my calculations, mathematically eliminated.
Don't hurt your shoulder patting yourself. Don't hurt your shoulder patting yourself on the back there.
Dan's already got a nice 2-game lead over me and Doug, so we've got a lot of catching up to do. Dan's not only going to give you the card advice and be right on that, he's going to give you the picks and be right on that as well. So
I try
all the time. So
All
Dan,
right.
you were the winner last week, so I think you have the honors. Go ahead. Pick
My NFC game, and I'm just trying to pick winners over here, guys.
How does he do it?
I'm going Green Bay over Detroit. So the Packers over the Lions in Lambeau.
Yep.
I mean,
Gimme.
come on.
That's a gimme.
Easy one.
And then I'm going to do the AFC game is going to be the Chiefs over the Chargers. I mean, how do I do it?
Too easy. Yeah.
How do
We
I do
needed
it?
to handicap these. I
Yeah.
think there needed to be like a way.
We're not
to-
even charging for this stuff.
But
You don't have to call
but
an
we're
extra line.
playing. I just can't pick the same team twice, or
Yeah.
I can't pick them a third time. So I'm gonna get these out of the way.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
Those are stone cold locks.
There you go. Yeah. Lock. There you go. Doug?
I am going to go with the Niners over the Jets, which I know is another gimme. And if I come in here and I have to eat crow for the Niners losing to the Jets, that's going to be really bad. I will eat crow for that one. And my second pick, I'm going out on a limb. I probably should stay steady Eddie on this one, but I'm actually going to pick the Patriots over the Seahawks. I think Cam Newton he's got his mojo back, no pun intended. He's out there. He looked great. He's saying Tom Brady who. Him and Belichick are having this new bromance going on, and I think they beat the Seahawks.
That's quite a pick. That's going to be a really fun game to watch, and we'll see if Cam Newton decides to rock the Mr. Mustard look again. That was quite a
the
get-up.
fashion.
I don't know if you guys saw that before the game. That was, I kind of envy the fashion style. I wish I could rock it as well as Cam does. My picks, I'm going to go with Tom Brady. I think the Buccaneers do get their first win this week at home against the Carolina Panthers. And for the AFC, one that I feel like is a stone-cold lock, Baltimore Ravens looked so good last weekend against the Cleveland Browns. Tougher matchup this week against the Texans, but I'm going to go Ravens over the Texans this week.
Nice. Yeah, last week I absolutely just crapped the bed. I mean, I picked the Niners to win the Super Bowl, which I know it's 1 week. We're 0-1.
It's only a week. Yeah.
But my Cowboys pick didn't pan out. And, Steven Gostkowski tried his best to get me a win on Monday night, missing 3 field goals and an extra point. It just wasn't enough for the Broncos to beat the Titans.
Life away from Bill Belichick. A little tough for some of these former Patriots. Wasn't all so easy. You left the nest, and now things are a little bit harder, I guess. So
Papa Belichick knows what's up.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, he's just like laughing maniacally, like, haha, you gave me Cam Newton. What were you all thinking?
Yeah, no
What were you doing? Well, there you have it. We will be back for week 3. Should be an exciting week 2 of football. Can't wait. And thanks for joining us on this edition of the Mojobreak Blitz. Of course, subscribe to us here on Mojobreak Media over on our main channel. Of course, you can find all of your breaks, live breaks, over on Mojobreak and Mojobreak Card Shop. We're going to have more breaks heading over there as well. For Doug and Dan, I'm Cody. We will see you next time on the Mojobreak Blitz.